Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, everybody, we are back, and I am joined by someone who is very smart and in my book, very humorous, makes me laugh. So it's always that's kind of like to the third power. It's Katharine Manning. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Casey, I'm happy today. I hope you are. I bet you are. Anyway, we just are going to be anyway because we both decided to have a happy dream. Okay, that's from Course in Miracles. All right. Oh God, I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm timing myself so I can just at least wrap up for 3 minutes at the end, so I can just.
Or if you'd like, I can tell you, hey, we got 3 minutes now.
That would be even better, so I don't have this go off because it makes a horrible sound. Thank you.
Okay, all right, I got you now. Before we get into today, if you can just give us the kind of the review of what you do and who you are, just in case people the first time here.
All righty. Well, I am Katharine Manning, and I am really hot. And what I do is I
love it.
I have a lot of protocols that I do that I've been doing over the years. I really love my work. I'm a psychotherapist, a spiritual counselor. I'm actually an ordained minister, believe it or not, and I have a really raunchy mouth, but that's really cool. And I have protocols and certifications in energy medicine, kinesiology, nutrition, hypnotherapy. Oh, so many work with Byron Katie. And what I'm going to do, what I did last week was I started talking about what Casey called my boot camp. And what it is it's protocols that I have done over the years that have made me well for being somebody kind of sickly, not really, but I kind of get sick a lot, but I like that about myself. Anyway.
I wouldn't say that about you. Really? You sometimes get under the weather?
Yeah, I just I was in the hospital for a month in February and March. I mean, I just.
With
Yeah.
COVID?
No. I haven't had COVID, but nope. They said I was going to die twice because I was really in trouble with a lot of, oh my God, it was so awful. I had surgeries. I didn't feel bad. I felt happy all the time. I did not feel sick. I had septicemia. I had blood poisoning and from an operation. And I had a really hard time going in the hospital because I had work to do. My doctor said, get in there. My white count was, I think 19,000. I think the highest it can go is 8. They couldn't even operate. I was so sick, but I didn't feel sick.
Were you tired?
Nope, I wasn't tired. I just I had some what do you call it? Scar tissue cut out of my bad biopsy in my breast, and it had gotten infected. Well, I knew that. I'd been saying that, like it was hard and red, and like the doctor was like, oh, I got to go out of the country for a while. He was a charlatan. He was a jackass, and so he didn't take it seriously. But I could have pursued it a bit, but I ignored it because that's what I do. And like I woke up one morning 3 years ago, and my hip was broken in 8 places, and I didn't do anything about it except, well, it's brutal what I do to myself. I think it's because I'm English or something, because I just push through. Anyway, that is not a good quality. I don't recommend it.
Well, I mean, in that case, it wasn't, but
this I was very, very ill. So I ended up, after I did some work, got the dog taken care of, I went to the hospital. They said, you are not checking out of here. So I stayed in there on an IV antibiotic, which I'm allergic to everything. So that was pretty tough for 10 days. And I had to come home and be on another IV with a home nurse for 10 days. And then it was just brutal. Oh. I'm well, but it's kind of like, you got to watch it. So stuff like that. Plus when I lie to myself, this is what I remember I said about somatization and conversion theory. Mm-hmm. When I'm out of my own integrity, and I'm not knowing it necessarily, but if something's not working in my life, like if I'm doing something that I know I really shouldn't, but I haven't gotten in touch with it yet, my bones break. They just break. And I'm not feeble. I don't have osteoporosis like that. I mean, everybody does, I guess, in their 60s, but I mean, if you're blonde, I think you do, but who knows if they do, I don't care. But I think that I call it a responder. So when I'm lying to myself, something snaps. And what it forces me to do, and this is why I say it's good, is it forces me to have rest and to consider and really self-reflect. What am I doing?
Why was I doing that?
And I always find it.
Is it about authenticity? Is it you being yourself? Is that what you think?
It's always about me being dishonest, me being full of shit. And it's so wonderful, but it's sometimes it's really humiliating. Like I've truly humiliated myself. you know, that quote by Theodore Roosevelt that says in the arena, talks about being in the arena and you get up, you dust yourself off because you failed so miserably. Yeah. And succeeded. But, you know, I put myself out there and I fail. And sometimes I'm pushing and pushing and going, God, this is awful. But I'm doing it anyway because I think, I don't know what I'm not thinking.
Well, you chose to be a professional actress who was very successful as the sole thing for so many years. And if that's not bullshit, nothing wrong with it. We're being
no, there was a lot wrong with it. I was not able to cope with rejection. I mean, I did a play by Martin Duberman called Kerouac. It was going to Broadway, and I was I was a female lead, and it was so good. And I mean, I would turn up stage, I had a flask in my thigh. Back then you could, you know, 70s, but I mean, late 70s. And so, and it stayed on Broadway for a week, and I just took it so hard. Meanwhile, I got great reviews. I mean, but it was just, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle like the fact I didn't have any perspective back then. I still kind of don't. So I also know that I can't work for anybody because I get fired. So I really do know I have to be on my own. So a couple of times a year I fire myself, and then I rehire myself 2 weeks later if I'm been good. I'm really serious.
I got to hear that conversation.
Well, you know, here's what I say. Katharine, you are so full of it. You arrogant, you know, you're out there again. I'll stop it. You're full of pretense. You're not telling the truth. Find out where. And I'll tell you, one time I was doing when I broke my hip, I was doing this thing with certification program with Byron Katie, and I was pushing to be in it. I knew not to do it. It was just wrong. I mean, nobody needs to be certified with that because then you do the work with a motive and not for the love of God. And so I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and I knew not to do it. And so I finally was talking to Katie, and I said, Katie, she goes, honey, just do it for freedom and stop it. And I still was pushing. And I was also doing these things that I do, which is so gross, where I kind of like plant seeds about people, you know, to get them in trouble.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like
gossip type.
Yes, gossip, but really good. I'm really good at it, I think. And so I'm I'm so gross. It's so awful. It's my worst part. And so that was coming up again. And I was just doing this smarmy stuff. And so what I said it to Katie. I went up to OI and said something. She goes, God, you're good. I went, I mean, come on. Come on, Katie. And I just came home and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And it wasn't quite there. I mean, it was there, but I wasn't looking. I was disavowing. It's called in psychology, just pushing it aside like Scarlett O'Hara. I'll think about it tomorrow. I was doing that. And then my hip snapped. And for
doing what?
And nothing. I got out of bed. There was nothing wrong with me. It was nothing. It had to be that big for me. It always does. It has to be that big.
So is that mental affecting the physical?
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's complete. Well, body is a reflection of mind.
Okay.
So yes, absolutely it was. And so, and I went to the most famous orthopedic surgeon in Pasadena who took an x-ray and said, your bones are perfect. It must be part of your reflexive sympathetic dystrophy, and gave me steroids, which is the worst thing I could have taken, which made everything worse. But I tolerated it. I would scream and pass out when I stood up. I would just scream.
From pain?
Yeah, it was broken.
Okay.
And then I would walk. I mean, this happened for 3 months until finally my internist said, you're going for an MRI. And you know something's wrong when you get out of the MRI. I love MRIs because it makes me feel really good because I think I'm such an alien. And when that magnetic thing happens, I'm happy. So something is so backwards in me. But
wow, never heard that before.
Yeah, when I got out of the tunnel, and there were 3 people going, "We're going to help you now. We're going to help you now." I said, "I got here on my own. Just give me my walker." They said, "Oh no." They put me on a stretcher. I said, "For the love of God." So they didn't even. By the time I got home, I had doctors calling me saying, "Your hip is broken in 8 places at the acetabulum. You are staying down." And then anyway. I talked the doctor out of a surgery. I never had surgery. So
something like that will just heal by itself?
I'll tell you privately what I did that worked.
Okay.
But but I mean, of course it worked because it's just brilliant. But yes, it healed by itself. I do yoga. I can put my leg
Yeah,
up.
I know you're very active, and
I'm very active.
You're up and you walk, even like.
Oh no, it was perfect. It was perfect. But I had to take that time. And it was almost, see, it's beautiful when it happens. It was conversion, somatization. I had been lying to everybody. And, I didn't even, by that time, I couldn't even write amend letters. I was so full of shit. I mean, it was like I was just going to compound everything. So I had to sit and feel it all and go, your worst parts are happening.
Yeah. Is it one of those things where if you lie too much, you forget the lies because there were so many?
There were so many lies. So over the next 3 months, I spent a lot of time in self-reflection. And it's not, you can't really be, you can't be too violent because violence closes the heart. So I had to stay open. And that's really the tough part. That's where the spiritual warriorship comes up. Just look at it. Just face it. You've done it before. Just face it. Ooh. And I did. And I would write the amend letters, but I wouldn't send them because the thing is, all I do is sound like I'm placating, groveling, like, I'm so sorry I did this again.
Yeah. I was a question about
I was like, I just had to face what I'd done. And I quit the certification program. I rescinded my membership and everything. And every single thing I did became happy again. And when I did the work of Byron Katie, it was for the love of freedom and God. And I became wonderful again. I became good at it. And I had been bad. I'd been doing it for the wrong reasons. Now, I'm not saying everybody else did, although I will tell you something cool. Katie ended the program after that.
Really?
I had nothing to do with it, but I like to believe I did. It was stupid, that program. It was stupid because everybody was trying to certify. Why? Nobody even knew what it was. And why was I doing it? I didn't need any more letters after my name.
Right. You had them all.
Oh my God. It was just $22,000 for nothing for me. That's what it cost. And it's 4 years. I mean, you can't even get in the program. It's harder to get into than Harvard Law School.
Wow.
So
it doesn't exist now?
And believe me, people that facilitate the work are better than the people that are doing it. They're being perfect. Like, is it true? They're like, is it true? You absolutely know it's true. I'm not moving my head, see, because you're not supposed to move your head because you're not supposed to let your personality in.
Really?
Yeah, it was stupid.
That sounds like a long session.
It was. Oh yeah, I'll facilitate you, but not on air because it takes forever. And it's really good. It's just hard to explain, and you have to have an experience of it. It's brilliant, but it's hard to explain. And it's also hard to do without the certified facilitators going, she's not doing it right. Mm-hmm. Like, kiss my ass. I mean, once I stopped doing it perfectly, I started doing it for the love of God and freedom. And there I was again, because I've been doing it since 2003.
Well, can I ask you where and when your faith came from?
Okay. Yes, I was thinking about this morning, and I knew we were going to talk about it. When I was a little girl, I used to climb this oak tree when I was really little. It was about 30 feet away from this old ramshackle home that we had, this plantation house where I grew up. And I could see God. I could see little sparkling things, and I could hear celestial voices. And I knew I was safe, and I knew it was God. And I would just have these experiences, and they were just, I knew. I mean, there was a lot of fear in the house. My father was a rageaholic. My mother was a kook and scary as hell. And I was in this tree, and it was sweeping oak, a grand oak tree with Spanish moss dipping down into the water. It was so exquisitely beautiful. And if I looked over here, there were banks and banks and banks and banks of azalea, gardenia, hydrangea, camellia. And I had the realization one day that the same power that took care of that and watered me, because nobody tended it. Nobody. Nobody knew it was there. But I would look at it and it makes me cry. I realized that there was nothing I had to do, that I had that same power and I smelled that good too. And I was that beautiful. And I would just sit there and hear these things and see these things, and I could see colors and I could see it. And I was just at peace. and safe. So
most ever?
Yeah, all the time. And I'd go in there and it's cuckoo bananas. And I'd go up there and it was completely what I've always called God. I don't care about the dogs, God spelled backwards. It doesn't matter to me what you call it. But I've always known there was a time when the darkness came, and
It does for everybody, right?
I don't know, but it did to me. It
okay,
happened.
yeah, it's a great answer. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I don't know if it does, but it did to me. It was just horrible.
Could you go back to that place when it was really bad?
Can I go back there now?
No, I'm saying like when you went through the dark place, could you go there in your head or physically?
Oh, no, I couldn't go. No, I was no. The dark night of the soul is the dark night of the soul, and you're unable to get anywhere. You're pulled into the mud, the quagmire, and you don't know that underneath the mud is a light that'll dazzle you, and you can't look up and you can't look down. You're just pulled, and happens. But I think it might have happened to you. I think that's what I was hearing you talk about a little bit, where your life is turned upside down. You didn't do anything, and you can't. But 2 times in my life when I've been the happiest, things have turned upside down, and I'm like, I'm sorry I said that.
That's okay. It's okay.
So it's just been absolutely unbelievable. And the last time was when I adored my second husband. I just was.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you bring me back to the first time? How did you get out?
It just happened.
Just let you go.
Well, what happened was I married my husband. We had this wonderful marriage in New York. He was the head of an advertising agency, and I was hot doo-doo on TV. And we had all this money. We did all these drugs and alcohol and everything. And I had this huge spiritual awakening where I just disappeared out of my body, and I ended up getting sober. And that's what did it. It started. Well, I went into a treatment center in New York because I was going to do this movie, and the director said, honey, you've got some miles on your face. You're going to have to get it clean. I went, you little shit. I said, I'm beautiful. He goes, no, you're really not. And you're going to be playing a hooker. So let me tell you, you need to clean up. And I went, I didn't think I had a drinking problem, but he did. So I went into this treatment center on 86th Street. I schlepped my Louis Vuitton luggage and I wore Chanel and I had lipstick all over my face. And I went in there and I said, hi, I'm here. And I learned about my first resentment because they took my vibrator. I don't think I've ever known that for so long. I thought I was going to, I seethed. I thought oh my God, I still can think about their smug faces. So anyway, I wasn't intended to do anything except get there and please the director so I could do the movie, just see, I can do it. Take some Valium, So I was sitting in my room. I was the only white person there. I didn't know I could go to any good place. This is a place that they sent the New York transit workers. I loved them all. I talked about Daddy and the plantation. So, they were I was so popular, so popular. So I was sitting in my room the second night and I disappeared into white light. I just disappeared. And I felt love. And that was the first awakening I had. And it just pulsed like this. And I just thought, whoa. And I hovered over my body and I thought, what is this about? And so God came back after about 6 years of absolute darkness and fear and terror and loathing.
And
didn't do the movie. And I didn't want to. I couldn't. I was too afraid to act. So things happened. And
what happened then?
With my work?
No, after you had that experience, then
I went out and told all the black guys I loved them, and one of them said, "I'm going to murder you." I said, "Okay." And they called me Miss Shake and Bake because I was like my cigarettes and everything. I don't know. I ended up being so popular. I told everybody how to do stuff. I mean, I was out of it. I was out of it. But I stayed there. I was going to stay for 3 days. I stayed for 21. I begged them to stay longer, but my insurance wouldn't pay for it because they didn't really believe I was, who knows what I was, but I loved everything. And I just would go out on the streets of New York and go, I love you. Mm-hmm. Back up and go, what? And turn around, and spit, and walk away. But I didn't care. I just felt love. I couldn't stop feeling love. So it came back. That's what God is love. It's an extension. It's an extension of the true self. I mean, our nature is love. It can't help but love. It's you have to put a lot of crap in the way to to hide and mask our true nature. So it had been in the way with all sorts of bad food and bad thoughts and bad energy and lots of drugs, cocaine, lots of, it was the 70s and 80s, man. And, and we just had so much fun. My husband, it was like evenings at home with the Rambos. I mean, we would punch and sock and, I shot at him with a double barrel shotgun really close. I can't believe I missed. It was violent. I mean, I was learn. I never had dolls. I had guns. Wow. So yeah, it was really something. But it all ended. We ended up having a great marriage. We had children. It was just turned out perfect.
So what do you take away from an experience like that?
I don't know, just the fact that we sort of are living along this thing and grace carries us. And I think that you just keep on keeping on because something is doing it for you. And these experiences are essential, but you don't react to them. You respond to them, I guess. Yeah, you respond to them. It's not like, let me think about this.
Okay.
I wonder if I think all along I've always known deep inside that what was happening was ultimately beneficial. Yeah, I did. So even at the darkest, I knew something was happening that was essential. Just like up in the tree when I go back in the house.
Even when you were dying, those 2 times?
Oh, I didn't know I was dying. I didn't believe them. And then I got my medical records. Oh my God. I was.
Didn't know.
It says things like urgent cardiac risk, patient something, something, something. And then I would wonder why they'd all come in rushing, looking concerned. I was eating something and watching TV. I go, hey, I love that hospital because I got to take OxyContin. I'd say, I'd like some more now.
Yeah.
Okay, but I didn't feel it because I had real pain in my body.
Right. You got 5. I want to give you the 5.
I got 5 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. Okay, so what I want to say, God damn it. So I want to say that I want to talk about Donna Eden's energy protocol, and I want to talk about breathing, which are the 2 protocols. I need more time. Sorry, I got off on this. Is that okay?
No, it was great. It's you being you, and that's why people tune in to see you.
His spiritual basis. I'm sorry, Casey.
No, you did great. Stop it. Maybe we can pick one of them, and then we'll start the next week.
Okay. Well, the thing that I was really thinking about is breathing, because breathing is amazing that we have to learn what we naturally are supposed to be able to do. And I had terrible panic attacks, and people go, oh, I have panic attacks. Well, they don't. They have anxiety, and it pisses me off a little bit because a true panic attack usually comes from a heart murmur or mitral valve prolapse. And I had one. I don't know when it was. It was like mid 80s, and they're so horrible. I just was driving up on the Taconic Parkway with a friend, and it felt like there was a fish flopping around in my chest. And I was in graduate school for psychology at NYU, and it was the most horrendous thing. It turns out, long story, I was crippled with agoraphobia for 1.5 years because you associate places with these attacks, and it turns out there's a cascade of hormones that happens, adrenaline. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Anyway, it caused me to flex spiritual muscles. I didn't take drugs. I went to lots of doctors. And finally, I went to a doctor at Cornell who said, your problem is breathing. It's that simple. I'd spent thousands of dollars. I think this guy was an angel. And he taught me how to breathe. And I teach everybody the breathing. And I taught it a little bit with meditation, but you just have to lay down because you get very, very dizzy at first because we're all hyperventilating. We're getting too much carbon dioxide in our blood, most of us who are anxious or stressed. So we're breathing into our chest rather than our bellies. And you have to retrain the belly. You have to retrain the breath. And it takes about 6 weeks to completely do it. And I was cured. Cured. After being completely incapacitated for 1.5 years. My husband moved in the other room and played Pac-Man. I mean, it was really bad. I would have to take the same gypsy cab to NYU. If I didn't, I couldn't go. My friend Cappy would eat food and I'd watch to see if she died and then I could eat. I was mentally ill from this.
Wow.
Mental illness. It was
debilitating.
Yeah, it was horrible for me. And I read books by Claire Weeks, and she said, there's always going to be panic, but the secondary panic, you wait for that. So I'd put my hand on a building and I'd get panic and I'd say, come and get me, motherfucker. And I'd wait and it would come and I wouldn't resist it and it wouldn't come like that. And I could just retrain myself to be back out in the world. It was really horrible. For 2 years, I couldn't have my back to a door, in a restaurant. It was really tough what I went through. It was really tough, but I had real panic disorder, mitral valve.
Yeah. And that's what
I don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have it anymore. But
Thank God you don't.
I don't, but I watch people and they're anxious. They breathe in their chest and they're gasping. Shallow. It's too much oxygen in the blood and too much carbon dioxide. They think they need more oxygen when in fact they need less. So, and you can and there's techniques to stop that process. When you're talking to somebody, you hold the breath and blow out rather than gasp in more. So I teach that and have everybody do it because I'm kind of sick of everybody going. Oh yeah. Well, okay. I'm making notice.
Kathleen, please tell us how to get a hold of you. Another awesome show. I mean,
it's so fast. I swear. Well, what you do is you call me you go on my website, www.southernfriedspirituality.com. And if you don't hear from me, do it again because my website host has set it up so that it goes to spam. But I check my spam filter. So, but and I'll get back to you. And there's a phone number and everything. And I love to hear from people. I really do, even though I joke about it. And I love talking, obviously. This is fun. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Casey, for letting me talk.
Well, I love having you on. And we will see you next week. Be right back, guys. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.